Hello, everybody. All right, we're going to start on time because there's a lot to get through. I'm Craig. I'm going to walk you through how to investigate digital ads. We're going to cover a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm going to move relatively quickly because there is a lot I want to get through. But I am giving you the slides. So by all means, you can get the slides here at this link on the bottom. And you can scan the QR code and grab that right now. These will remain available to you. And so, if I go quickly through something and you want to make sure you get it later, don't worry about furiously taking notes. You're going to have access to the slides. So there you go. All right, so here's our agenda. Going to talk a little bit about how digital ads work. In particular, we're going to talk about programmatic ads, which are sort of the automated ads that you will find really widely across the internet, as well as other types of ads, including direct placed ads and affiliate ads, as well as social media ads, as you'll see later on. Talking about how to identify them. And then we'll get a little bit more technical, but not super technical, don't worry, about a standard called ads.txt and how that can actually reveal information to you about the ad relationships that a particular publisher has, but also potentially ownership information. So if you're trying to figure out who runs a website, who is profiting from a website, this information can potentially be revelatory for you. And then I'm going to make sure you're aware of the basic functionality of the Meta, Google, and TikTok ad libraries. They all have databases of ads running on their platforms from various time frames with various searching features. And so, overall, what I want you to do is to think about how you can integrate digital ad investigative aspects into whatever stories you're working on. You're looking at a company, you're looking at a person. Do they operate properties on the web? Do they operate apps? Is there advertising in it? How are they making money? So this is another avenue for investigation to kind of follow the money, but also understand some of the connections and relationships and ownership. Did everybody get the slides? You're good? Okay, cool. All right, so just, I've been obsessed in reporting on digital ads since about 2017. Last year, with colleagues at ProPublica, we did a whole series in a project investigating Google's ad business, and we looked at it from a variety of angles. And we used some of these techniques, some of these approaches, as well as with a little bit, some more sophisticated technical things that my colleagues did. But you don't need to be technical in order to be able to do some really good basic ad investigations. And I'll talk about some of the things we found that you want to keep in mind when you're working on yours. All right, so digital ads. This is an area that has very little investigation by news organizations around the world. There's a lot of interesting things to find. And so my goal is to get you to at least think about this and integrate it into what you're doing. This is a $500 billion industry around the world spent on digital ads. It's massive. It is filled with fraud. It is filled with scams. It is a disgusting, corrupt pig pile, and people need to look into it around the world. Okay, that's my pitch to you. There is so much lack of transparency. That is why so many bad things can happen. The way the system has been designed allows people to hide, allows money to flow into places that really it probably shouldn't be. And so one of the things to be aware of is that the brands who are out there buying ads, they have rules about where they want their ads to appear and where they don't want them to appear. So one avenue for investigation is finding ads from, big major brands showing up on disinformation sites or extremist sites or that kind of thing. That's one avenue that people often pursue. At the same time, the ad networks and platforms themselves, Google, Meta, and on and on and on, they also have rules about the kinds of ads that they should and should not be accepting, and about the kinds of content that they should and should not be placing ads next to. And so just knowing the rules that brands tend to have, and knowing the rules that these platforms have, and at the end I'm going to give you links to all of the platform's rules, is a way for you to start looking into this and figuring out, is Meta accepting ads about X even though they banned that? So that's one thing to keep in mind of what are my options? Those are two ways to start. And again, this is about following the money. So as we look at who is profiting from, disinformation, extremist content, the ad aspect becomes really, really important. So I said one of the things we're going to focus on are what are called programmatic ads, okay? This is where all of that lack of transparency, all of that technical complexity, and as a result, a lot of the fraud and the bad behavior happen. And so this is, if you search in like Google Images for programmatic advertising graphics, you're going to get so many, and I have literally not seen a single one that's any good at explaining it clearly. And so this is, this is an idea of sort of like what the process is of how these ads are automatically being placed on sites and in apps. We tried to explain it in one of our articles, and the core thing that I would say here is like, this starts when you or we go visit a web page. And the second, in like the blink of an eye, all of the information that has sort of been collected about us, like our IP address, some of our browsing history, everything stored in cookies, all of that is wrapped up and sent off to what are called ad exchanges, which the biggest one is run by Google. And basically what the ad exchange does is it says, hey, I've got this user, they're in Sweden, it looks like they've been searching car sites. Who would like to show an ad to this person? And it invites advertisers to bid. And this is an automated process that happens in the blink of an eye, in milliseconds. And the buyers have sort of set the parameters of the kinds of people they want to show ads to. And if my information aligns with what a buyer has kind of encoded in what they're looking for, they will then potentially place a bid. Whoever places the highest bid wins the auction, and boom, the ad is shown. So when you load a web page, that's what's going on in the background. It's this instantaneous billions and billions and billions and billions of times a day auctions that are taking place. And the key thing to understand about this is that in the past, an advertiser would say, okay, we're going to do an ad campaign, and we're going to buy it in these magazines, in these newspapers, in these TV shows. They would know exactly where their ads were appearing. They will have done a media plan to choose those based on the kind of audience they're reaching. That still happens. Those kinds of direct buys still happen. But programmatic does not work that way. With programmatic, brands are saying, well, I want to show ads to this type of person with these characteristics in this location. And then they wait for that data to come in of the kinds of people visiting, whatever website that meet their criteria. And then they bid to show an ad. So the difference is they're buying an audience. They're not necessarily buying a publication. They're trying to get their ads through bidding in these auctions to appear in front of the kind of people they want. And that means brands, in most cases, have literally no idea where their ads are appearing. Yes, they get reports from these ad networks they work with, but these campaigns, if you're spending a decent amount of money, you could be appearing on thousands upon thousands and thousands of websites and apps. So no one is really watching as, in a granular way where all their ads appear, which enables a lot of bad stuff to happen. So that's my attempt to kind of explain this. It's an auction, it happens in milliseconds, and it means that brands don't actually know where all of their ads are ending up. All right, so let's talk about two big types of programmatic ads. The first is the display ad. Kind of an example here, I pulled up the Washington Post yesterday. I got these ads from Philip Morris International. And so for some reason they thought me in Sweden on the hotel IP address with my history wanted to see this shit. And I don't know why, but this is the banner ad. This is like the classic thing we see on websites. It's been around for, a long time. And this is your classic display ad. Google is the king of this. Google has the biggest business around the world doing display ads. This is basically what they kind of look like. And then we have our content or native ads. You're probably familiar with these too. They're like on the side of a news site or they're underneath an article, and they have, often kind of eye-catching, clickbaity headlines and photos. So these, the reason they're called content or native ads is that they look like related articles, right? They look like, other articles that you can go, but they're ads. And one of the key things here that's a difference between display and content or native ads is the money aspect. So with a display ad, like the one I showed you before, the moment that ad loads, its money has changed hands because it's basically, they're paying to show you the ad, just to display it to you. In the case of these ad networks, money only changes hands if you click on one of these. So showing it doesn't really, typically, there's no money changing hands. It's all about getting you to click, which is why they have like often sort of borderline images and clickbaity headlines, is because they want you to click. That's when the money changes hands, okay? So they're both types of programmatic advertising. They both involve auctions. They both involve showing the ad to the person that meets the criteria they want. But in this case, it's only when you click that the money changes hands. And these are all over news sites. Probably a lot of you work for sites that work with Taboola or Outbrain. So we'll look more at those in a second. Again, it's a lot of it is programmatic. There certainly can be times where somebody makes a deal directly with a site or an app saying, I want to buy advertising space there. And we'll talk a little bit about how you distinguish between a programmatically placed ad and a directly placed ad. And these websites and publishers, in order to get ads on them, they work with a lot of different partners. Most will try and work with Google because it's the biggest and it pays out really well. But you will look at a website, you will load a page, and there could be multiple different ad networks and partners there. So it can become a very complex relationship, and we're going to talk about how we understand that better. So the two levels of analysis for ads, but also this is true for any kind of digital analysis, is like one layer is just observational. What do we see? What are we looking at? What is presented to us? And a lot can be achieved by that. Whether we're looking at a video and trying to figure out where it was shot or what have you, or we're looking at ads and trying to figure out who the ad partners are. And then there's the technical aspect. And I'm going to walk you through a few of these, none of which are super technical, none of which require programming expertise or anything like that. So just keep that in mind for this. It's about what you can see and then also what you can do more technically, but also I think in any kind of digital investigative work you're doing. All right, so let's dive in on our observational piece. This is a Malaysian website. When I was browsing it, this ad was shown to me. Now, when I was shown this ad, I wasn't in Sweden, I was in Canada, which would explain why on a Malaysian language website, I got an ad talking about, jewelry made in Canada. Because again, it's like I was in Canada, my IP was in Canada, they're showing the ad to me, they're not buying the ad directly on a Malaysian website. Otherwise, it would probably be in Malaysian, right? So the question is, what kind of ad is this? Does anybody know what kind of ad this is? Is it display or a content/native ad? Just yell it out. Display, yes, good. Okay, it's like a banner ad. Now the question is, what ad network placed this ad? And there's a really easy way to sort of figure that out because programmatic ads typically have in the upper right-hand corner some information for you. And in this case, when we look at it, all we have to do is go to that section and hover our mouse over the little I for information, and it tells us that this ad has been placed by Google. So there is an industry standard called Ad Choices that requires programmatically placed ads to have some disclosure about the ad network that has placed it and to give you some information about that ad. So when we do our observational analysis, we can use this basic kind of industry standard to get some information from it. In this case, sometimes all we have to do is hover our mouse over the little I, or, and by the way, if you click on it, it will take you to a page with Google, which is not very useful because it's supposed to tell me why this ad was shown to me, and literally all it says is, why did I get this ad? It's because of, quote, your similarity to groups of people that the advertiser is trying to reach according to your activity on this device. There is nothing specific in that. It's just like, well, because of what you do and because of who they're trying to reach, we showed this ad to you. Not useful at all. The other thing that you might see is this little triangle here, which is the ad choice triangle. Again, if you click or hover on that, you will get sometimes directly in the page there, just telling you, hey, it's ads by Google, or you might get directly taken to that Google page again. So this is something you'll see, and that triangle is there not just for Google. Typically the I is just for Google, but the triangle may tell you a completely different type of ad network. So just looking at it, we can see the triangle, we can click on it or hover on it, and start to understand at least one of the ad partners that a particular publisher is working with. Now, on this same website, when I was there, the article page had this towards the bottom of it. And again, in the upper right-hand corner, we're getting information that's useful to us. In this case, it's telling us this is a Taboola ad. The content or native ads typically have the logo of the ad network there. It's typically that instead of the ad choices thing. The ad choices thing is more for display ads. The logo is more for content or native ads. And so right away, just knowing this, you can visit a web page. If you see ads, you can know where to look to find more information about the ad partners that are there. So that's one thing right now off the top. When it comes to direct ads and affiliate ads, let's dive into those a little bit here. So in terms of direct ads, one of the signs of a direct ad would be that, number one, there is no ad choices logo or information in the upper right-hand corner. So if we look at this one on a kind of extremist site in the US, you know, they're running their own ad on their own site. There's no information in the upper right-hand corner. That's one indication this is probably a directly placed ad. Then the other thing you can do is just hover your mouse over anywhere on this ad, and you can do this for any type of ad, whether you suspect it's direct or not. And in the bottom left-hand corner of your web browser, you're gonna see the URL that the ad is gonna send you to. If that URL is exactly the same as, you know, the company or the site being promoted in the ad, that is a good indication that is a directly placed ad. And the reason for that is when you get a programmatic ad and you hover over that ad and you look in the bottom left, you usually get a very complicated URL related to an ad network like Google, okay? So in general, if it's a simple URL that is the same as what's being advertised in the ad, there's a good chance that's a direct ad. If it is a more complicated one that sends you first through an ad network like Google before delivering you to the page, that's again another indicator that it's likely a programmatic ad. So those are like the two differences that you can note there. So we can look at the ads, we can look in the upper right-hand corner, we can hover over any logos there, we can also put our cursor on the ad and look in the bottom left to see where it's sending us. Not very technical, really easy for any of us to do it, but it actually gives us a decent amount of information just within seconds of looking at ads on a page. All right, so let's talk about affiliate ads. Affiliate ads are really important for people to be familiar with, particularly journalists, because there is a huge amount of scams being promoted via affiliate ads, particularly crypto scams, particularly you know, scams like selling health cures and things like that. These are often not running through the programmatic infrastructure because they would violate the rules of the ad networks, but they are based on relationships between a publisher and a purveyor of that kind of product. And so let's give an example here. This is an ad that I had seen on a website, and when I hovered over it, I saw it went directly to the site on the bottom. But what I also saw was when I clicked on the ad, this was the URL of the page that I was sent to. And the key thing here is when you're looking in the URL that you get sent to, if you see ID equals, if it is a direct ad, and there is ID equals in the URL, there's a very good chance that this is an affiliate ad. And so the way affiliate marketing works is basically, you know, I might have a product and I want to sell it. And my marketing strategy is that I want other people to promote this product to help sell it. And in exchange for them helping promote this product, I will pay them a commission, an affiliate commission, right? And so if I'm running a crypto scam, and I need to get people to drive traffic to my webpage where I can convert them and then get on the phone with them and get their banking information, I can put that out there to places where affiliate marketers are looking for things to promote and say, listen, if somebody clicks on the ad and they actually go all the way through to signing up and I call them and they make a first deposit in my crypto scam, I will pay you 500 euros. And the affiliate commissions on crypto scams can be that high or higher. So it's very enticing. And you have people who basically spend their time figuring out how to run ads to get people to click on them in order to earn commissions from affiliates. And so again, it's a commission-based revenue model. You have a person with the product or service, but they're sort of putting it out there to the affiliate community to say, hey, promote my thing. If it converts and you get exactly what I need, somebody signing up, somebody buying something, I'll give you a commission on that. And in order for affiliate marketing to work, you have to know which affiliate got you which sign up. And that's where the IDs come in. Each affiliate is assigned an ID per that offer, crypto scam or what have you. And then when you click on the ad, that ID is passed along so that all the way through, when that person clicks on it and signs up or buys or whatever, that ID is passed so the affiliate can be properly paid their commission. And that's useful information for us because it is publicly available. We see an ID. And by the way, I gave you two links here on the bottom, afbank.com and clickbank.com, two places you can sign up for free and see the different products being offered to affiliates. You can literally go in there and look at the different shady, fraudulent crypto offerings and how much they're paying affiliates when they get people to do it. So if you are seeing in your particular country certain health products, crypto scams, whatever, And you can see that these are affiliate offers. You could sign up for AFBank, you can sign up for ClickBank and search the name of that product, and you may actually find more information about like how much they pay out to affiliates and that kind of thing. Again, on the scam front, on the false healthcare front, affiliate marketing tends to be a big factor in that. So now we know they're probably direct ads, and now we know that when you click on it, there's probably an ID in the URL. And just to give you an example, this is a story I worked on earlier this year with OCCRP and a Swedish publication. There was a lot of right-wing sites around the world. They were running really shady ads with fake celebrity endorsements for crypto scams or for fake health cures. And we could see that these were affiliate ads. They were not programmatic. They were placed directly. And when we clicked on the ads themselves, this is what we saw in the URL. We saw a person's name. And that matched up with domain registration records. And that was a guy that we ended up tracking down in Italy. And his first name was Leonid. And it was like, he wasn't very smart. Like he signed up with his first name and his affiliate ID. And that was yet another indicator of him being linked to these sites. And not only to the sites that he owned these sites, we could see that he was earning money, earning commissions as an affiliate for people clicking on these ads on his own sites. So that was another connection to him. Not only was he making money from getting ads on his sites, he was in some cases placing affiliate ads on his sites with him as the affiliate to earn money when people signed up for them. Okay, so we've done our observational piece. We know we can look in the upper right-hand corner. We know we can look and hover on the ad, see what's in the bottom left. We know we can look in the URL of a direct ad. Maybe there's an ID. Maybe that tells us there's an affiliate relationship. None of this stuff is technical. Anybody can do it, and you'll be surprised at the kind of information you can get from that. So we're going to get a little more technical here, and I want to tell you about ads.txt. So just like that little triangle ad choices, ads.txt is an industry standard that has been created by the digital advertising industry. It is a voluntary standard, so there is no law enforcing that people have to adhere to this. However, if you don't adhere to this standard, which I'll describe in a second, you're going to earn less money. Because, for example, if you don't implement ads.txt on your app or on your website, Google is not supposed to work with you, okay? So what is ads.txt? Well, this comes out of the ad industry itself recognizing that we have a huge fraud problem, okay? We have a huge opacity problem. There is a lack of transparency, and that could cause advertisers to lose trust and make them not want to spend money in programmatic advertising. And so what they came up with was a standard whereby a publisher has to declare all of the ad partners that they work with and say, like, okay, we work with Google, we work with Taboola, we work with them, and here's actually our account IDs with them, which is important. And at the same time that all the publishers are supposed to disclose who they work with and their account IDs with those ad networks, the ad networks themselves, like Google, like Taboola, are also supposed to publish their own list, which is called sellers.json. And so you are able then to sort of look and see that they match up. It's like, oh, this website says they work with Google, and this is their publisher ID. And Google also lists that website in its sellers list. So yes, this is a Google partner, and yes, this is their ID. Because what was happening was people were spoofing. People were pretending to be the Financial Times in programmatic auctions and getting money from ad buyers who thought they were placing ads on the Financial Times, and it wasn't. It was on some random ass site that just was pretending to be the Financial Times. This was a huge issue. If you want to read about it, The Guardian actually spoke up very publicly about this years ago, saying basically we're having ad revenue stolen from us by people pretending to be The Guardian on these ad networks. So they came up with this standard to say everybody disclose who you work with and who your ad IDs are so we can make sure that when you're buying it, it really is the real thing. All right, so it's useful to us because now we see publishers having to declare who they work with. And it's also useful to us because it's super easy to find the ads.txt file on any website. So for example here on the bullet point, if an ads.txt file exists, it's located at domain.com/ads.txt. So in our Malaysian example, aaronsakura.com/ads.txt. So right now, if you have a website that you're interested in, that you're investigating, why don't you pull that up on your phone or on your laptop, type in the domain name, and then add /ads.txt on the end. If they are working with programmatic partners, then you may actually see some information there. And one thing to be aware of is that there are different types of relationships. This is like the complexity starting to come in. We're not going to go on deep on that at all. I just want to keep it straightforward today. We want to focus on, and the things that are most important are what are labeled as direct relationships. Okay, so let me just show you kind of what I mean and what this looks like. So here's the ads.txt file for that Malaysian website, okay? Some of them are quite long and complicated looking like this. Some of them might be very simple. You might literally just see Google and then a publisher ID and a label saying direct. This is what we get in an ads.txt file. So we see the name of the partner. So if we look at the very top, we see google.com. So they're saying we work with Google. Then you see an ID. In the case of Google, it's pub dash and a string of numbers. That's the Google Publisher ID format. So they're saying we work with Google. Here is our unique ID. And then they say direct. So you get the partner, the publisher's ID, and you get the nature of the relationship with the ad network. Direct is most important because this is the publisher saying, we have an account directly with this ad network. We work directly with them. The ones that are labeled reseller is the publisher saying, so we work with a bunch of partners, and our partners have partners, and here are their IDs. So you could literally work with hundreds and hundreds of partners as a publisher, but that could be enabled simply by you having 2 or 3 direct partners, because your direct partners have partners and IDs. Like literally, Taboola has a Google Publisher ID, which is weird, but you can sort of see that. It's not something we're going to go deep on because it gets a bit confusing, but just understand that the records you are most interested in when you are thinking about attribution and where the money goes are the ones labeled direct, okay? So that's what an ads.txt looks like, and that's confusing, and it doesn't really help us see and understand a lot. And so what I want to show you, one, remember, direct relationships are most important. Remember which ones are labeled direct right now. So what do we have? We have 2 Google IDs labeled direct, and then we have down here vi.ai labeled direct as well. So let's see what more we can learn about these direct relationships, and maybe learn about who owns this website and any other websites that may be owned by the same organization. So the place that I want you to pay attention to is a website. It's well-known.dev. Sorry, it looks like .dev is covered up there. So it's well-known.dev. If you've got a laptop, I would encourage you to go to this website right now and create a free account. It is totally safe. I know the guy who runs it. He works as doing sort of investigations into the ad ecosystem. He is also always happy to help and hear from journalists, just so you know. He's based in Singapore. So again, it's well-known.dev. Go there, sign up for a free account. And the reason is that you see more data when you sign up for a free account, okay? So whenever you are interested in a publishers' ad relationships, the first thing that you can do is you can go and look at their ads.txt file and see if it's there and see if there's a lot of stuff. And then the other thing you can do is you can go to wellknown.dev and you can put in the URL of that website. And so, for example, you get the ads.txt file and the data for that Malaysian website we were looking at. Oh, right, I have a laser pointer. Look at that. Oh my God, that's exciting. And so it tells you some basic things. Like, for example, it tells you the last time they scanned the ads.txt file for this website. So wellknown.dev is basically going and crawling the web, millions and millions and millions of websites and apps to gather the information that they have declared publicly and then to structure this so it's easier to navigate. And here's the kind of thing we get. So instead of that messy, big, long file, it extracts for us the publisher direct sellers, okay? It says, hey, I see good data for Google and I see good data for Taboola. We see the seller IDs that they've declared, right? And what do we also get? Oh, we get company names and we get other domain associated with that company name. So this is the best scenario where we look and a site has publicly declared, the owner, and sometimes it's a company name or sometimes it's a person's name, and also a domain associated with it. So if you were sort of wondering, like, well, who's the company behind this website? Maybe they conceal it. Maybe they don't talk about it. Sometimes you can go and there will be data about a person or a company associated with the website that does not publicly declare it, in the ad ecosystem because they need to earn money. Yeah, you had a question? Yeah. Yes. Right. So the question is, all right, so if the ad system is Google and they're a Google partner, and the site we're interested in is aaronsekura.com, which I'm completely mispronouncing. I apologize if there are any Malaysians in the audience. Why are we then seeing a completely different website listed in domain? And the answer for that is, if I am a publisher and I run multiple websites, I may declare the domain associated with this account to be one of my websites, but there could be other websites where I'm using my same ad account to receive ads. And so the thing that's helpful for us here is, like, we're interested in one website, but we can see that the Google account, they've declared another website in it. So right away, we know these two websites are very closely connected, because when the ad revenue gets paid out every month by Google, it's going into the same account for those two websites. So we have a strong financial connection between Aaron Sekura and kishandunia.com. And this is where we can start to build connections between websites through their advertising data that they have declared in these systems, okay? So again, this is the information that they have registered with Google in order to receive money. This is the information they have registered with Taboola in order to receive money. And we can move and do more from there. But there's one caveat that I want to give you, which is that seeing a company name associated with a Google ad account is unfortunately very rare. Sometimes you get lucky and it's there, but Google has decided basically to give the ad industry and the ads.txt standard the middle finger. And this was the subject of one of our investigations last year. Google is the only ad network that allows the vast majority of its publisher partners to not declare a name, to not declare a company, to not declare a domain associated with the publisher ID. And so this is just some data to give you here a sense of it. Like, here are some other major ad networks. Basically, about 100% of their publishers will give you a company name or name associated with that account. So like, if Taboola's on the site, you're like, great, there's probably some info for me there. If Google's on the site, you just gotta hope you get lucky. Almost 80% of Google's publisher data is either completely anonymous or only has a domain or only has, you know, a person or a company. And I can also tell you what we found in our investigation is that they don't validate this information at all. We found a guy in Italy working with piracy sites who had more than 20 different Google publisher IDs, and he had put fake names in almost all of them, including like famous Italian poets and other people. And he was like, well, you know, number one, he talked to us because he didn't think he was doing anything wrong. But number two, he was just like, well, yeah, I was told, you know, by my partners to register a lot of Google publisher accounts, and that it didn't matter what name I put in there. So you have to check this data as well. Most people are not lying, but Google is not requiring them to disclose it, and it is not checking what has been disclosed, okay? So keep that in mind. We actually, as part of our investigation, tried to de-anonymize Google's seller list. We spent months and months doing this, trying to match a publisher ID to it being active on websites. And we actually managed to match, what did we match? Yeah, it was about 70%. So we managed to de-anonymize about 70% of Google's publisher partners, which was more than anybody had done before, but there were still like almost 400,000 publisher IDs that we couldn't match to an active website or app, and that in some cases weren't even listed in Google's own file of who its partners were. So you could have an ID that exists, but it's like, you know, Google is telling you absolutely nothing about it. So that was our little detour. Just be aware, you may not get data when you look at the Google stuff, but if you do, you know, that's good news. Okay, so I mentioned we can start on a journey of connecting other websites together using ad information. And so this is why I told you to sign up and create a free account. You will only see this number in brackets if you have signed up for a free account at wellknown.dev, okay? And this number in brackets tells us that wellknown.dev in its data set has found a total of 4 websites that all use this same Google Publisher ID. So we know already that Aaron Sekura lists it. We know already that this website here is also listed in the system, so it's probably using it as well. But there's 2 other websites that we don't know about. And so we can simply click on the 4, and here's what we get. So it's telling us that, you know, the last time it was scanned on these websites, these 4 websites all listed that same Google Publisher ID in them. So again, like if you're trying to go from one website and figure out who owns it and figure out if that one website is connected to other websites, and in this case, if they're all earning money from the same advertising accounts, we just went from one website that we didn't know much about to knowing the company related to it, to knowing that it is part of a network of at least 4 websites that seem to all use the same Google Publisher ID. So ad stuff can help you sort of follow the money, but it may also help you build out networks and understand the connections between websites. So these are the 4 that listed in their ads.txt files that same Google Publisher ID. And then we can also look and see the Taboola one had only seen 2. And the reason for that in the end is that these 2 were the most active sites. Like the other 2 don't seem to be very active. And so, they've only put it in the Taboola ID in the 2 active ones, it seems, is what their thinking was. But again, like even if a site isn't active, even if there aren't currently ads on at this moment, that's an opportunity for you to investigate that site and see what it has published in the past and see more information. So understanding how to dig into ad data opens up avenues for attributing websites and connecting them together and understanding relationships between them. So think about that as well. When you're trying to figure out who is behind a website, you definitely need to look at ads.txt and dig into that, because there may be company names, people names, or other associated websites that come up for you. Okay, so if you remember, when we looked at the ads.txt file manually, and this is a reminder of it's good to look at it manually to sort of have that sense, there were a bunch of direct sellers. If you remember, there were 2 different Google accounts, and then there was something called vi.ai. So why were those not listed from well-known in that first section of the direct accounts? So the answer to that is that well-known does a very nice favor for us. In addition to scanning the ads.txt file on the site or in the app, it also goes and looks in that sellers file from Google, from Taboola, to say, hey, are they listing this publisher with this ID? And if they don't match, then it's actually telling you that. And so in this case, it's telling us in a section labeled Missing Direct Sellers that second Google Publisher ID Google does not say, yes, this belongs to Kishan Dunia. So there is a mismatch there. That this entity one also is mismatched, and vi.ai is also mismatched. So it's saying, okay, this website is declaring that these are direct relationship IDs, but the actual ad networks themselves, Google, Entity, and vi.ai, don't actually say these are direct partnerships, okay? And this can happen just by a mistake. Sometimes people mislabel things. It's supposed to be a reseller ID, but they label it as direct. Sometimes it's an honest mistake. Sometimes it's them trying to actually conceal the nature of their relationships. And you have to sort of, go further down the road than we're going to go today to start digging into that aspect of it. But I'll give you a place where you can read more about investigations of that nature at the end. And so just to give an explanation of like how and why this occurs, if we look at the original ads.txt file, we could see here that the website declared, this is their valid one, where Google agrees, yes, this is their direct account, and this is the disputed one. And what's funny is like they're answering the question for us here. They say added by Taboola. So as I mentioned earlier, Taboola has Google Publisher accounts. It's like a never-ending snake eating its own tail, right? And so they have mislabeled this as a direct relationship when even they're marking it correctly. This is Taboola's Google Ad ID, so it should be labeled reseller. And that's why it's showing up here with Google saying that's not a direct ID. These are not a thing you need to spend a lot of time on typically, unless you think that this is a publisher and a site that is engaged in a lot of like ad tomfoolery and doing advanced kind of fraud or things like that. Most of the time, just pay attention to the direct ones that well-known shows up in the proper direct section. Just to go back to that, this is what it looks like. It's the direct sellers that have been correctly validated and has the data for you there, as opposed to the section that the site will show you, which is the missing direct sellers, okay? Now, if you get to the point where you're really interested in more about that, that's where you want to reach out to somebody who is an ad expert and can maybe talk you through that. I'm also happy to talk to people if you're ever digging into stuff and you have questions. Okay, so that is ads.txt. It's a really great way to potentially find ownership information. It's a really great way to connect sites together. And it's also a great way to understand more about who that particular publisher is working with to earn money. We're doing kind of okay on time. So I just want to pause right now because, as I said, I'm moving quickly and there's a lot of info. Does anybody have a question that you want me to answer on ads.txt before we move on? Yeah, go ahead. On well-known? Okay. Yeah, so when you go to well-known, there is a main search bar that comes up. It's a good question, actually. Thank you. So do not put in a domain name with HTTP and all that stuff in front of it. The search won't work. You need to just put in the domain name of like aaronsecura.com. Don't put in HTTP and all that in front of it. Remove that. And you just put the domain name in that main search bar. That will come up a page for you if it's in the database, first of all. So if it's in the database, you get a page where it will say if they have an ads.txt record, and then you just click on ads.txt and it will bring you to the ads.txt results page that we've been looking at. So you put in the basic domain name without HTTP and all that in front of it. You'll come to a screen which will tell you if they have data, and then just click on ads.txt for that particular website, and you're going to be taken to the page with the direct sellers and the missing and the resellers and all of that. They also do, they have a visualization element if you're signed in to show you these sort of relationships. Some of them are insane looking, like tons of lines going here and there, which just reinforces again how messy this ecosystem is. You know, you can be a publisher with 3 websites and you could literally be connected to like dozens and dozens and dozens of other partners through that. It's very complicated, which again, for people who understand how this works and understand the technical aspects of it, those are the people who are able to siphon money out of it by doing fraud and other things. And you know, just on the fraud side of it, the estimates are that anywhere of that, you know, roughly $500 billion, most of which goes to programmatic, anywhere, like the estimates you'll see is anywhere from like maybe 5 to 10% to like over 30% of the money spent on digital ads is 100% stolen. That it has a massive, massive fraud problem. It varies on country, it varies on type of ads. You know, for example, like connected TV is a relatively new area of digital ads, and it doesn't have the same kinds of protections and measurements as other types of ads. And so fraud rates in that have exceeded 50% in some cases, and yet people are shoveling money into it. They're letting themselves be ripped off because nobody wants to stop this thing. I could literally go on for hours on that because it drives me crazy, but we will move on. All right. So let's talk about these ad libraries that exist. If you don't know about these are super useful. Anytime you are investigating a person, an entity, particularly political candidates, we have a lot of elections next year, you should absolutely be taking advantage of these ad libraries to see what is coming from those companies or being advertised about that. If you are researching a contentious topic about like human rights or whatever, you should also be going and searching to see what kind of ads are running around that. Ads are a very powerful form of communication. They are used by political candidates, by groups, by average people to try and persuade people. And so these ad libraries, you should think of them as part of integrating into your work, investigating that topic, that person, that company. All right, that's my overall pitch. So Facebook ads are placed via auction. They run their own auctions, you know, for the Facebook platform. And they have obviously lots of targeting capability. It's very powerful in that respect. And when you are buying ads with Meta, you could buy ads that run on Facebook, on Instagram. They also have, it's not such a big deal anymore, but they have a network of actually, you know, third-party websites where Facebook has helped place ads. But them and Google, if you listen to the US government, have been involved in a years-long monopolistic endeavor, and so Facebook has turned away from that, and Google has helped Facebook win some ad auctions. Again, if you want to go on that, there's antitrust suits going on in the US about this. So Facebook has policies about the types of ads they do not accept. They don't accept booze ads. They don't accept ads for sexual services, tobacco. You're also not supposed to see a before and after image in an ad on Facebook. You probably have though, right? Because their enforcement is not perfect. And so being familiar with these ad policies really enables you to know what shouldn't be there and to search and dig in a little bit. Now, if Facebook has an approach where if you are an advertiser doing political ads or ads related to social or political topics, you are supposed to register. You are supposed to go through a special process to prove who you are, that you are in that country you want to target ads at, And as a result of that, any ads you run that are political or social issues ads are supposed to be archived for, I think it's 7 years. So they stay around longer. And they also get more targeting data revealed when we see it in the ad library. Now, ads that are not labeled as political or social by Meta are only visible in the ad library when they are active and running. The second that ad campaign stops, it disappears from the ad library. So the lesson for that, and it's true not just for Meta, but also for the TikTok and Google ad libraries, the lesson from this is that you need to be consistent. You can't just check in every few weeks or every few months. You are going to miss a lot of stuff. So if you are on a topic area, if you are looking at particular companies or people or looking at an election campaign, you need to be logging in and systematically looking in these ad libraries and running your searches, because otherwise you will miss stuff. An ad may literally run for a day. If you don't check that day, you're going to miss it, okay? And the second part of that is that, of course, these companies are not catching and labeling and archiving every political and social issue ad. There are ones that slip through. I'll give you an example from TikTok in a second. And so when they realize they have slipped through, at a certain point, they will remove that ad. And so be aware, like there could be political and social issue ads running from unverified, unregistered advertisers. The only way for you to see them is for you to be looking when they are active. So think about what your search terms are that you're going to run in these libraries that enable search terms. Think about the organizations, the people, the topics. Run those searches consistently. Be systematic about it. Have a spreadsheet listing them. Set reminders in your calendar to look in the ad libraries. You will find stuff, but you got to be consistent. All right. So here's what it looks like. Here's where it is: facebook.com/ads/library. And it has, some basic filtering options for you. It's really, you should be paying attention to this. So what are the things we can do? Well, we can filter for ads that have been targeted in a particular country, right? And you can also do it for all ads in all countries. You can restrict it to a country, or you can say, give me all of them. And then there's also some ad category options. The thing that is really, really important and good about the Meta ad library is that the search bar enables you to do just free keyword searching. So you could put in, a person's name or whatever, you could put in keywords, and it will pull up ads that not only in like the text under the ad, but if there is text in an image or things like that, they OCR it and it will give you a result, okay? So Meta is nice. It gives you free keyword searching. Google, for example, does not do that. In terms of tips, when you are looking at these ad libraries, turn off your ad blocker. Okay, they will not work properly if you don't. You have the country filter, and then there's also the category filter. So here are the different categories of ads. You can obviously just search across all of them. You can search just in their database of ones that they have flagged as issues, elections, or politics. And then Meta also has restrictions on housing, employment, and credit ads, about who can run those and the kinds of claims they can make in them. So they also segment those out. And again, it's like if you're interested in financial stuff about, hiring ads or job ads or what have you, you can sort of search and see the kinds of ads in that category, but then you could also do your keyword searches broadly and see if there are unlabeled employment ads or credit ads that are out there and see the ones that Meta is missing. So that's the Meta ad library. It works across Instagram and Facebook, so you will get results and you can see if it's run on these platforms. And you will see some targeting data for political ads. You see very little for ones that are not political. They give you information about spend and targeting for political and social issue ads that have been properly labeled, and they archive those for years. The regular average ones, they don't offer you as much info. Okay, let's talk about Google. So Google's ad library is actually quite new. It was really awful and shitty for a little while, but it's gotten better. The big thing that sucks about the Google ad library is you cannot do keyword searching in it, okay? And they've also limited it in other ways. Again, we have our filtering options like, date range, location, ad formats. But again, the thing that I really want to emphasize here is you cannot just throw in keywords and search on them. The only way you can search in the Google ad library is to put in the name of the website that the ads are sending people to. So if you want to know, like, I have like a scammy crypto site or something like that, I could put that URL in and see if there are any Google ads for that scammy crypto site. or you can put in the name of the advertiser. So if it's like a person or a company name, you can search by that. But you will only get results if Google has ads related to that specific URL or has that particular person or entity registered as an advertiser. So it is very limited in that respect. They have nice time range filtering, location, and then the formats as well. You know, you can get image ads, you can get text ads, and you can get video ads. Because obviously Google owns YouTube, Google has search ads, Google has display ads. So that stuff sort of gets funneled into this. To be honest, I don't think you get much from YouTube, and I think that's on purpose. So, you know, you're missing there a little bit. But I'm going to tell you at the end, if you're willing to pay a bit of money, some other options for finding more about Google Ads. Topics, basically it's like either all or the political ones. There are some countries where Google has a political ad registration process similar to Meta's. And it does archive those longer, and it does give you more information about them. But there are countries where it doesn't have this program. Like, for example, when Canada brought in some new digital advertising rules in our most recent federal election, or the one before that, Google looked at the rules and was like, yeah, we're just not going to accept political ads in Canada because we don't want to disclose the stuff you guys want to disclose. And so Google, you know, and so when a Canadian election comes up, like, one of the things that Canadian journalists can do is to look for political ads that have been placed via Google, because Google says it doesn't accept them anymore, right? And so here's just an example of like the limitations on search. So you can throw in a keyword, like just as an example, I threw in China, but we can't run a search for all the ads in Google that mention the word China. We can only get results from websites or companies with the words or the letters according with China in them. And then we can only search for that. So that's what I mean by it. It's like you need to know the domain, you need to know the company or the person. If you think that like people might be registered with a, you know, the keyword in it, in their name or in the website, you know, you can certainly try searching like that, as I did with China as an example. So that's the limitation we get from Google. And there's one other really big limitation which really kind of sucks, which is that even within those limitations, Google has another layer which reduces the amount of ads you're going to see, which is that Google has a general advertiser verification program. So it has a higher level one if you want to run political ads in certain countries. But Google also has a baseline one where advertisers can register, can prove their location, prove they own this company, that kind of thing. And most of like the big advertisers will go through this. But anybody who is a sketchy advertiser, a scammy advertiser, or up to no good will not go through this. And Google will only give you results from verified advertisers. So this is the one limitation you have to keep in mind when you're getting results. You know, if you're looking for a particular domain and you know this domain is running Google ads and sending people there, it may not show up in the ad library because the owner of that domain has not registered as a verified advertiser, right? So then, you know, it's hard for you to look at all the ads running from them. And when you do, you know, find a hit, you will see all of the ads that have run on Google in the last 30 days. You'll get a little bit of, you know, information about the ads, but you just, you know, you basically get to see what the ad was. It's pretty limited. So Google is behind Meta in terms of ad libraries. All right, let's do our last one here, and then we can move on and look at some resources and take some questions. So TikTok, relatively new ad library, has a lot of good targeting information compared to Facebook and compared to Google, so you get a little bit more from TikTok. TikTok says it does not accept political ads at all, which is kind of bullshit because there are absolutely ads of a political nature on TikTok. And so, you know, so you can search and look for those and document those. But, you know, TikTok has similar kinds of filtering options, right? So we get countries, we get ad types, we get a date range, and yay, we get name or keyword searching. So you can do free text keyword searching in TikTok's ad database. Lots of fun, interesting stuff to find there. Good scam and fraud and sketchy health claim hunting as well, if anybody's interested in that. And just to give you a sense of, like, I did a keyword search with Xinjiang as like the keyword, and like this is like some of the results you might get. And I just wanted to show you, you know, you're going to get, most of these were like clothing ads, but you're also going to get something, you might get results like this in TikTok, but also in Google and also in Facebook, where they say, well, there was an ad here that fit your search criteria, but we removed it because it violated our policies. And so once they remove it, you don't get to view it. And so again, this is my argument for being consistent and systematic about looking at these things. If you're running the searches regularly, maybe you would have seen this ad and noted it before they actually went in and removed it. And then you would note that they had removed it and you could ask them about that, right? So this is like some stuff just kind of disappears on you. And that's why you got to be paying attention and looking at it. You can see some of the basic details here, like when an ad first was shown and most recently shown, and roughly a range of people who have seen that ad. And by the way, when you click on that one that had been removed, it does tell you, the content was rejected, and it gives you a reason. In this case, it's the ad or landing page features profanity. So they're giving you a somewhat specific reason on why they removed that ad. It's general, but the problem is, of course, we don't get to see the ad and know what the detail was. Here's just a sense of what you get on an ad that hasn't been removed on TikTok. So we get, that data about people who've seen it, and then we get a nice targeting summary. Actually, the target audience size that TikTok had sort of estimated could view this ad was like 44 to 54 million people. And then we get things like, where was this targeted? So this particular ad for like clothing was targeted exclusively to Germany by this particular company. And in other cases, you may see they're running it like across lots and lots and lots of different countries. Here's the other thing to know. So TikTok has its ad library, but TikTok also has this thing called its Creative Center. And I'm giving you this link because this is aimed at advertisers saying, hey, get inspired by viewing some of the popular and really cool and interesting ads that are on TikTok. So this is like meant to encourage advertisers to create ads, to buy ads on TikTok, and to know what to do and what to be successful. And the reason I want to show it to you is because they have these two categories here, examples of top ads. So they will identify categories like beauty or fashion or whatever, and they'll say, here are top ads. Here are ads that are performing really well. Well, what are the top ads? And you may be interested in a particular category in a particular country, and you could view the top ads there. So that's actually pretty cool intelligence. And then also like the trending stuff as well. Look in your country, see what's trending on TikTok. I mean, sometimes stuff ends up in here and you're like, whoa, that's like, why is TikTok letting everybody know that that's a trending ad in this particular country? So, sometimes, particularly when it comes to advertising, some of the best tools out there are built for advertisers. They don't build tools for journalists, and certainly not investigative journalists. We don't pay for it, and they don't really want us nosing around. But they build tools to help marketers, to help advertisers spend more money and understand what's performing well. And so sometimes those tools are extremely helpful for us. We can use them for our needs. Ad libraries, creative centers, all that kind of stuff. Keep an eye on it. There's often interesting things there. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you, and this is why I wanted to give you the link to the slides. And if anybody came in late, you didn't get the link to the slides, I will go back to the first one in a couple minutes so you can scan the QR code and all that. But here's a bunch of resources for you. So as I mentioned off the top, these are the Google ad policies. If you're buying ads on Google, here are the rules for your ads, okay? If you are a publisher accepting ad revenue and ads from Google, here are the things about you. Now, here's an interesting thing. Google publisher policies have specific rules about false claims around climate change. They have specific rules about false claims about elections and things that undermine democracy. They also have rules around false health claims. So Google has specific rules about the kind of content it should not be placing ads next to. And that was actually the subject of one of our investigations last year. We worked with fact-checking organizations in around a dozen countries to show that Google was absolutely placing ads on climate denial. Google was absolutely placing ads on false claims about elections, on false claims about COVID, and that kind of thing. So like that was an avenue of looking at because we knew what the policies were and their strictest ones in terms of content. Meta ad policies, kinds of ads it will and won't accept. TikTok ad policies, kinds of ads it will and won't accept. And another tool that I want to let you know about is called AdBeat. So this is a paid tool, but they have a decent free version. Most of these, they're called ad spy tools. And I'll talk about that more in a second. But AdBeat is one of the few that has a free option. And what you can do at AdBeat is, if you are interested in seeing the ads that a particular website is running, you can put in the domain name in AdBeat, and it will show you potentially examples of the ads they're running across different ad networks. It will show you what the ads themselves look like. You get limited results in the free version. It also has a US Western bias. So some of you are going to find it's not coming up really well for sites in your region, and I'm sorry, a lot of these tools do have that kind of bias. But AdBeat is one to be aware of. If you're really trying to figure out the ads that are driving people to a particular website, throw it in there and try it out. In general, oh yes, right, and the markup, if you want to sort of analyze a site and its sort of ad behavior and its ad tracking and what data it collects, the markup has built a beautiful tool called Blacklight, which can give you a nice user-friendly report to tell you, again, the kinds of ad partners a site is working with. It will also tell you if the site has certain surveillance features built into it. I know that they're actually working on a new version of Blacklight, so I think it's sometime probably by the end of this year, they're going to launch a new version of this, and I imagine it's going to be awesome because it's already a really good tool. And just to add on the AdSpy element of this, literally, you can just do a search right now for AdSpy tools, and you will see a whole bunch of them. These are the tools that people like scammy affiliate marketers use to figure out what other scammy affiliate marketers are doing in terms of ads that are working well. And the downside of these tools is that they can be quite expensive. So if you're working on an investigation and you really want, to zero in and see as many ads as you can about a topic or whatever, you could potentially sign up for like 1 month. But, some of them will literally charge you like hundreds of dollars US a month. Some of them have lower paid tiers. They are scraping search ads. They are scraping display ads. They are scraping content native ads. They are scraping YouTube ads. So you can get, in some cases, through keyword searches or other things, a lot of results that you will not get from the official ad libraries. So if you are really digging in and you have a little bit of budget, you may want to consider evaluating some different AdSpy tools. I'm not listing names here because honestly, depending on the kinds of ads you're looking at, like if you are really interested in YouTube, some AdSpy tools specialize in YouTube. And so you want to look at the different AdSpy tools and look at what you get for your money and see which one is most useful to you. When we did our stuff last year, we did pay for AdBeat for a few months and for a couple others. Found AdBeat to be quite helpful, particularly when we looked at the gun ads that were running through Google. They brought up like millions of gun ads that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to see. Last couple tips here. These folks do really good and interesting investigations into digital ads. Check My Ads is an advocacy organization. Adalytics is a researcher, and if you have, he is very open to collaborating with journalists as well. His name's Christoph. He's a Polish guy based in the US, really smart and really nice and extremely smart on the technical side of things. If you want to read more technical badass investigations, that's his. If you want to understand how reseller information might be manipulated in ads.txt on purpose, Check My Ads has done some investigations on that. They also have a newsletter you may want to sign up for. And then I also have a newsletter, which is free, which is on the site itself. I have a bunch of articles about techniques for digital ad investigations. I describe one technique we used in our Google Ads investigations last year. And I also just publish general advice and techniques and approaches for different types of digital investigations. So by all means, sign up for that. It's free. I have no plans to make that a paid newsletter.